Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy, y'all. Red Laughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I'm honored today to have a friend, a client, and a fellow Vietnam veteran, and you'd be amazed at what this person has done in the last 40, 50 years. I was blown away. Anyway, a real brief introduction about myself. When I'm not doing TV shows, I research. I love to delve into the human body at the cellular level, chemically and biologically. I'll look for cause and effect relationships, but I want to take that information and provide it in presentations like we're doing today, except that the channel is called Talking Heads, not the Corner Bookstore. But I look at what can I do to help people make better decisions. I kind of consider myself an author of decision support manuals for aging, but I'm also a writer, author of several books, and TV host. We do 3 shows here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My shows start at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock Central Time. So today, my guest is Joseph Evans. He is a world-renowned opera singer. He's also a just retired college professor, university professor. So, Joey, please join me up here on stage.
Sorry, say that again, please.
I said, please join me up here on stage.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
It can't be the artillery rounds. I know that's too long ago. Well, maybe it could be. I know my hearing is going like crazy here in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you and I both, some of our early life in the military, you get hearing damage, shooting guns. It just for you. I was listening to your introduction of me, and I think it's appropriate. My best friend was in an opera with me once where he was in a firing squad and had to shoot me, and it was stage blanks, but they have that paper wad and wax at the end of the the shell. Yeah. And when he shot me, it blew out and hit me right in the middle of the chest and set my costume on fire. So when I'm supposed to be dying, I'm flapping around like a dead fish. The things that happen to you on stage are unbelievable.
I want to say it was Miss Saigon. I know it was a French one. Anyway, they were firing a cannon. I was in New York at a play, and I'm sitting about the third row middle, and they fired this cannon on stage, and I wasn't expecting anything, and all of a sudden this heat wave shot by me. Whoa! Yeah. So.
Your PTSD kicks right in, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It really and truly does.
Yeah.
But I didn't know Joey 6 months ago. We kind of connected here recently, and he has a book we're going to be talking about here very shortly on the Corner Bookstore. Okay. But it turns out he was in Vietnam. I think a little before I was Army. I was in the Navy, so we kind of shared a little bit of history together there. And then he came out and got into the field of opera.
Yep.
So why don't we talk about that little transition from the military into the world of singing, and then we can go into your college professorship and then into your book, and then I think we'll have you pegged for who you are and what you can do. Okay.
Well, as soon as I was released from active duty, I went into a summer stock theater and did musical theater, and then I went back to school, finished my master's, and was teaching in a high school when I went and auditioned for the Houston Grand Opera. and I got hired. Go figure. And a pretty famous lady back in those days named Beverly Sills was in the cast, and the conductor and stage director was Sarah Caldwell. And again, those days she was called the First Lady of American Opera. Well, she talked me into quitting my job and going up to Boston at that time to start my career. And my wife and I decided I should do just that. So we did. Took a huge risk, and it all worked out. It was not stratospheric. I always get amused when writers say something about the meteoric rise. Meteors fall, but anyway, it went pretty well for me. But and I did that for 20-something years, and that overlapped with my teaching career. Later on, when I got into my early 50s, I went into college teaching, but I still was performing all the time there. The big change in the career was that I went from doing principally the romantic lead parts into doing what we call character parts in opera. They're still big roles, they're just not the romantic lead. And it was a logical transition, and I kind of enjoyed that. And then later on, I still sang well into my 70s. I'm 80 now. But I was still working, to mid to late 70s. And so I was kind of fortunate. My career was longer than the average, quite a bit longer than the average. But it helps to be a little bit crazy and just keep going anyway. So then I decided it was time to retire, and I did. And write a book. Yeah.
You've been in some interesting opera houses around the world. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I started in this country, and then later on, the stereotypical thing for American opera singers is to go to Europe first. Well, I didn't. I established my career in the United States, all over the place, and in New York, and San Diego, and Palm Beach, and Houston, and Dallas, and all that, as one does. And later on, I went to Europe and auditioned over there and started working quite a bit in Europe. In fact, I would say the last 12, 15 years of my singing career, I did half the time was in Europe. So I got to sing in Paris and London and Italy and all those, wonderful places. Some of the houses were, they're sort of keystones in your career. If I've sung at La Scala, then I've kind of made that rung of the ladder, and I was fortunate enough to do that. The interesting thing about that is if you've ever been to Italy, it's just kind of wild. They say that a child's first word is not mama, it's strike. So you're always always worried about whether the doors are going to open on time. But I was lucky and had a great time there. So that's the way the career normally goes, and then as you get older, you may change the kinds of roles that you do. It's no different from a movie actor. As you get older, you change the kind of things you do. I just noticed that, George Clooney said he's not going to do the romantic leads anymore. And he's 62, I think, or 3. But it's the same way with a singer. If you can still sing, then you can still, perform, but you have to adjust to the realities of this or the character parts. So that's what I did, and it worked out pretty well. As soon as I retired, I started putting this book together. We're going to talk about later, and it's I start out by saying this is a guidebook for people like me who want to get into university teaching, because it's a different approach from the normal academic professor. But I say that this is not intended as some kind of a tell-all. Well, now that I've done it, Red, you and I are going to get together later, because I think it's time for me to write a tell-all.
Well, one of the things we had recently, we had a guest on this show recently, I can say 3 months ago, who was an opera singer, retired, but she wrote a book about World War II, and she had a particular focus that she had because she had been to some of the places, and her history intertwined with that, parents and grandparents. I asked her a question about, well, do you speak German or Italian or what? And then she told me, I was flabbergasted. So I asked you the same question when we were working on your book. Yeah. So do you speak Italian? Do you speak German, Russian, whatever?
Yeah. I'm still fairly fluent in French. The German, I'm rusty. It's use it or lose it. Italian and German, I can get around town, but I wouldn't want to have a philosophical conversation with somebody. I'll tell you one little thing about working in Italy that it's common in Europe. You know, we think of somebody's job as, you know, that's your stepping stone to something else. We were at a restaurant in Venice, Italy, and the waiter was this very handsome young man, and he came to our table and spoke fluent English, went to another table and spoke fluent Italian, fluent German, fluent French, you know, Spanish, everything. And we were just fascinated with it. Well, he came to our table to, you know, refresh the water glass or something. And one of my colleagues said, "Your languages are incredible. It's just wonderful." And the young man said, "Well, I need it for my profession." The next question was, "Well, what's your profession?" And he said, "I'm a waiter." It's a different lifestyle, you know, to them, that's their profession, and they are very proud of it and do it very well. And, you know, I need languages for my profession as a waiter. We think of that as a temp job, but that's just part of their lifestyle that I appreciate it very much. They take whatever their job is, they took it seriously, and, you know, and when they clock out, they go home. But so the languages, especially when you're working there, it will come to you. And I had language in college, but when you're working in this country that then they speak that language in your rehearsals, you're going to pick it up pretty quick. So you get to be fairly fluent. And I remember once I was in Geneva, Switzerland. They speak French in Geneva. They speak German in Zurich. They speak, you know, they have 5 languages in Switzerland. And a year later, and I just didn't talk very much. I understood what was going on, but I just didn't talk very much. But about a year later, I was in a store in Zurich, actually, and saw a castmate who was French. And she walked over and we just struck up a conversation. And she then looked at me kind of, she said, "You're speaking French." I didn't even think about it. So those things come to you. The college gets you kind of ready, but it's hearing the language spoken by natives that will give you a much better understanding of it. And the pronunciation is often different. In this, I mean, obviously I have a Southern accent, but in this country we have accents that spread all over the place. Well, European countries do too. And once you get a little more fluent in the language, you can start hearing their accents because you can figure out where they're from. It's kind of interesting. And if you go to Great Britain, oh my God, it's different part of town is a different accent. So that's always kind of fun for me. Yeah.
I was in Bahrain, and the concierge at the hotel we were at spoke 21 different languages.
Wow. Yeah. Some people have a great ear for it. Yeah.
But that's part of her job at that time was to handle that thing. But you mentioned Venice, and my wife and I had an interesting experience there. We went into a restaurant and we ordered a glass of wine. They brought it out. And then they came by a few minutes later and said, "Here's the menu. You know, what would you like?" We said, "No, we just want to drink." Well, we physically got thrown out of that restaurant.
Yeah. Well, when you're a visitor and I mean, I can't tell you this on the air, but I mean, I won't tell you the word I used. But we were in a rehearsal, and I used a phrase which I thought was perfectly legitimate, and people giggled. And I said, "I've said something bad." I called the choreographer over and I said, "What did I say?" He said, No. That means." He told me what he meant. It's really bad. But my daughter, who is fluent in French, was there, and she said, "Dad, everybody knows that." I said, "Well, I don't know it. Tell me these things." I said something pretty awful, but unintentionally. It's just the choice of the word in a certain kind of sentence. It's the syntax, not unlike English. It's the syntax that makes that word either acceptable or not. And oh boy, I blew it. Everybody laughed at it, but it's like, okay.
So why did you decide to write a book?
Because I went through the process myself. The whole idea started several years ago when I was in an opera. I had just taken the job in Houston at the University of Houston. And it's such a kind of a culture shock almost when you're a performer and you apply for a teaching position. For performers, whether I don't care if it's piano or voice like me or saxophone, doesn't matter. Or acting in the acting class or art, those processes are totally different from a normal, like a math teacher or chemistry or something like that, because you have to be able to demonstrate your expertise in your particular field in a different way from other people. If you're applying for a teaching job at a university, you go and you do a lecture demonstration, you have a bunch of interviews, and they look at your credits and all that, and that's the end of it. You get picked out of ever how many dozens of people are applying. For a performing artist, it's different because on a given day, even you show up, you may or may not have breakfast with somebody who's basically listening to everything you say and writing it down. Then you will have an interview with the head of that area. Then you will have an interview with the dean of the college or the school. And then you'll have an interview with somebody higher up on the university level. But then you will do classes. You will teach individual lessons in your field. Mine was singing. And you're always observed by anywhere from, a dozen to a couple of hundred people. You're always on camera, really. So then you will do a master class, which is like you work with 5 or 6 different students while everybody watches you. And then you'll have a Q&A with the students. And then you might have dinner or something later with everybody else. And what I always advocate is that just remember that everything is a test. And you have to be very careful about how you present yourself. And you want to be honest with everything. But in the book, I tell a quick story about we were doing auditions, and this was a person who was auditioning for a doctoral program. And the prerequisite for her current job was that she finish her doctorate. So she had to do that. Well, anyway, she came to Houston to audition for us. It was pretty good. She was 50-something years old, but she could still do it. And I noticed on her resume, there were listings for certain performances in certain cities at a certain time. And I said, I noticed you've got some performances here. She said, yeah, I did that. And well, I'll tell you, she said Boston. I said, oh, okay. Well, those particular operas in those particular years, the soprano was Beverly Sills, not this person. And the tenor was, let me think. Oh yeah, me. Don't lie on your resume, just don't, always be honest with these job applications. But anyway, so you've had this long day of interviews and performances, because you have to sing a recital too, or play a recital, depending on what your instrument is, or do scenes if you're an actor. So that day, or maybe 2 days, stretch over 2 days, you are very busy showing everybody not only what you can do, but what you can teach. And it's exhausting. I make mention in the book that this is some of the most stressful things you will ever face. People think stage fright is a big deal. Nah, not if you're doing it for a while. Know your stuff and put on the shoes and go do it. But this is really a test of your stress. Test of your stress level, performance level. So it's different in that way. Your credentials matter a great deal. And so your resume, you would say a curriculum vitae on, academically, but your resume, mine is probably, 20 pages long now. Now, not then, but you accumulate these things over time. All that is very important, but the key to it is how you communicate certain ideas. Because as a teacher to a performing artist, you're never using a textbook. It's all what you have to offer, and you have to demonstrate that. Now, for a singer, you even have to offer a lot of flexibility, because teaching a tenor like me, I always say I'm not a tenor, I'm a man with a high voice, but teaching a tenor is different from teaching a soprano, a female, you say soprano, alto, tenor, bass, countertenor, whatever. You have to be very specific for their individual needs. There's certain fundamentals are the same. The physical part of it is, your breathing apparatus and all that. Can be the same thing. But there are other factors that involve in a particular person standing in front of you. And you have to demonstrate that in a job interview, that you are flexible and can go from one to the other quickly. In fact, I previously mentioned a master class. Those things, you're going to deal with different voices and different body types and all that, and have to be able to immediately address the needs of those people. So it's quite a different approach. The reason I wrote the book was to address those needs for people who are like me, singing full-time or being an orchestra player full-time, whatever, and you want to get into university teaching. And the book then lays out everything that you will need, there it is, thank you. Lay out everything you need to prepare you for that. So it is a limited audience, obviously. You're talking about a few thousand people across the country, but it's a need that hadn't been served yet, so I did it.
Joey, we're getting ready to go to a break here very shortly, a commercial break, probably last about a minute or so. We'll come back.
Okay.
And I know you're in the process of launching this book. We finished it just literally a month or so ago. It wasn't very long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into that part too. So let's go ahead and go to commercial break, and we'll come back and go into a little bit of your marketing aspect of it.
Okay.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover Holy but Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day, Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, only here on USA, Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Brett O'Loughlin here. We're back on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is fellow author Joey Evans. Joey, please join us back up here.
Hi.
You know, my first degree was in chemistry, and I would walk down the lab area where we were at, and I was constantly amazed at the number of people practicing singing, practicing an instrument or whatever, and they were in there for hours and hours and hours. I used to think my degree plan was pretty tough, but I had to really admire the music profession to get a degree. That requires a lot of work, stamina, endurance, etc.
Yeah, it does. And the fact is you're doing the same, we call it core curriculum, all the basic courses that anybody has to take. You have to do that too. Even in conservatories, you know, you think of conservatories, you just have music courses, but no, you've got to take the other stuff too. Not as much as a state school or like a university, but even a conservatory is dedicated to that discipline. But they have to have a background in other stuff too. So, you know, an undergraduate in university is going to take all the math and science and history and, you know, everything that everybody has to do as core curriculum. And then you take the specialty courses too, which are quite drastic sometimes. The graduate programs are more specialized. You're really taking the things that you will apply to either a teaching career or a performing career, and sometimes both. But yeah, it's pretty rigorous. The difference between, for example, a pianist or a fiddle player and a singer is that they can practice longer hours without hurting themselves. Singers have to be very careful. There's this little thing here called a larynx, and you can't pump out 6 hours straight. You'll hurt yourself. So it's the physiology of it is quite resilient. You can heal quickly, but avoiding injury in the first place is part of our job as teachers and as singers to protect ourselves. So you won't see many opera singers, especially with late night parties and all that. You have pretty conservative lifestyle to take care of yourself.
You have like a 30-second video that kind of introduces the book. Maybe we can go to that quickly, and then we can talk more about the book.
Okay.
Introducing the essential guidebook for performers who want to teach. Your step-by-step companion to securing a university or conservatory position. The author of this guide is the internationally acclaimed tenor Joseph Evans. He performed in the world's foremost opera houses for more than 4 decades, transitioned seamlessly into a successful career in academia, and retired as a tenured full professor with an endowed chair. This candid roadmap provides guidance for navigating the complex process of finding positions, preparing applications, mastering auditions, interviews, and classroom strategies. Step confidently into your future and thrive as an artist teacher. A practical guidebook for performers transitioning into university teaching by Joseph Evans. Available now on Amazon.
That was very well done. I congratulate you on that one.
Well, I've got a friend who's an international consultant, and one of his degrees is in media communications, and he knows how to do all that stuff. I don't know how to do it, but he put that together. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I work with new authors in writing their book, and sometimes the book is already written, which is in your case. But in the process of formatting a book from 8.5 by 11 on a piece of paper that's in Word into a book that's 6 by 9, things don't always translate well because you have a requirement in that book for certain things to look a certain way. You have a requirement in there for certain sheet music to be readable. Because of the nature of the thing. So what were some of the technical difficulties you had in writing the book? This is a really difficult book to write.
Yeah, mostly because you have things that don't appear in other books. There are so many charts and graphs. I'll show you an example of, I don't know if you can see this or not. This is, no, you can't tell. This, see the blue stuff on the side there? That's a spectrogram of my speaking voice right now. Now, if I sang, it would be a lot more of those frequencies. Each one of those things represents a frequency. And we hadn't planned on doing that, so if it didn't work, I'm sorry. Anyway, those kinds of things in the book have to be done in a very clear, specific way, and then you have to be able to read it and understand what all those little wavy lines mean. There are charts and graphs in the book. We also included, over the years, I've been a team that published, I don't know, maybe 20, no, maybe not that many, 15 at least, articles in peer-reviewed journals that had to do with research into voice. We didn't intend for it to be this way, but over the years, everything we did had something to do with vocal health. In other words, protecting the instrument. You've heard of speech therapy. Well, it's the same kind of thing, but fundamentally what you want to do is prevent fatigue, which prevents injury in many cases. So that's in the book. But these graphs and charts, some of them are quite scientific. We reproduced the magazine articles, with permission, obviously, as appendices in this book. So you can see the original articles if you want to read that stuff. Otherwise, what I'm in the major parts of it, sometimes we'll have a little anatomical drawing, and that has to be, it's just difficult to get those things pasted in properly, and you help me with all that. So there are a lot of things that appear in this book that aren't, it's not just text. It's graphs and charts and tables that help you understand that part of it. About half of the book is, I break it up into how you find a job, because it's not a normal process. You're not gonna go to one of these job search sites online and find these things very easily. But there are very specific places where they do appear regularly, and it's easy to find them if you know what to look for. So I give them the links to it and the process to do all that. And then what you do on those days that you're going to be auditioning for them and are applying for the job, the paperwork that you're going to need. A singer's not going to know what a CV is. They'll look at you funny. But that whole process is in there, and I give examples so they can look at a pattern and look at the topics and all that and figure out how to do that. There's one little thing that many singers don't know about. Very often a university will consider professional recordings in lieu of published papers, books or magazine articles, journal articles. And sometimes singers don't know that they have them, because what has happened over the years is that I've got a bunch of them that are, Sony Masterworks and all that stuff with a professional label. And some are from a different source. What has happened over the years is when the copyrights run out of broadcasts, you'll very often on PBS or NPR or something, they will broadcast a performance. After the copyrights are over, those things have been reproduced and sold commercially. So I tell them how to find those things, because they're not, you just don't think of that as valid. So fundamentally what I'm doing here is showing people like me, when I got ready to do this, how you find all these things that you didn't know you had to basically validate your career. It's interesting that I was singing, I don't know if you ever heard of La Scala. It's like the premier opera house in Italy. My first job there, I went to the consulate in Houston to get a visa. And they said, well, you have to bring us opera programs to prove that you're really an opera singer. And I said, well, here's the contract. It's signed. Right here. Nope. I had to go back and find the programs for, years and years and years and take them physically in a box to the consulate. I didn't get them back. So yeah, interesting. But traveling internationally, there's always these little roadblocks they're going to put up. Interestingly, I went to China. I went to Beijing. I just went to the consulate in Houston, filled out some papers, and a couple weeks later got it. It was no problem at all. But other places you think would just be, here, you're the opera center of the world. Let me in. Nope, you got to go through a bunch of little hoops you got to jump through. Anyway, in the book, there's a great deal of that about here's what you do and how to do it. Now, I mentioned earlier that, a given singer is going to be in their voice. And, candidly, it's not too hard to teach somebody with a voice like your own. The difficulty gets in with somebody whose voice is different. Like, I'm a tenor, so teaching a soprano is different. And then how do you assign, when I say repertoire, I mean, what kind of songs and roles in opera do you assign to somebody like that? There are 40 pages in this thing of repertoire choices for levels of development, in other words, age and how many years of experience they've had, and literally just the names and composers and how you find all this music that you can then safely assign it. There are books and collections. For example, there's a series of books called the Tenor Beginning Book of Songs, and those are good. But still, when you're dealing with individuals, not everything in a collection is going to be applicable. Everything in my book has been performed successfully by students of that age. In fact, some of these things I just reproduced the recital program, and because one of my students or a colleague students actually did it successfully. So these are things that are practical. That is kind of hard to find some of that stuff. I get into, there's one chapter entitled Stuff I Think You Need to Know. It's pretty informal, but it's like, you're going to face this. How do you handle it? These are things you're going to face. Now, I think the next book I write is going to be more on that level. I have instances in this book where if this happens to you, here's how you might want to respond. I think that could fill a volume because it's stuff you don't even think you're going to face. And you go, oh, how do I handle this?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is when your upper administration has a problem, may have nothing to do with you directly, but very often I have gotten, the word from the provost office down to the dean of the college, down to the director of the school, down to me. And the instruction was, fix this.
You told me a little interesting story about doing an opera in Russian.
Yeah.
And your Russian linguistic ability was not really that high.
Terrible. Well, again, it was La Scala in Italy, and they hired me to do the Prince Gvidon in the Tsar Sultan by Rimsky-Korsakov, and they sent me a score in Italian. So okay, fine. Well, I learned it in Italian, and my Italian is good enough where I know what I'm talking about. 3 weeks before I was supposed to show up, they sent me the score in Cyrillic. I don't. What? So I went to New York and got a Russian coach to coach me in this language. And I got it. Nobody criticized my diction or anything like that. So I got it. However, the subtleties of the language, I wasn't sure. It's like, I don't know. When I showed up for rehearsals in Italy, the conductor his name was Vladimir Fedosiev, Russian, and he was a dynamo. He was fantastic. Our first rehearsal, you're sitting in a room around the piano with a conductor and a pianist, and you sing through the whole thing before you start staging it. And I thought, man, this is going to be hard. He acted out the roles as he conducted. I'm not kidding. It was like, just watch the guy. I got it. No problem at all, because he acted out the whole thing. I'll tell you a quick one. His wife was there, Mrs. Fedosiv, and she spoke English. People were terrified of him. I mean, he was a dynamic, very charismatic, fantastic conductor, and they were terrified of him. But I used to tease him because he would speak pidgin English and Italian mixed up, and he would say, if you say in English, più, it means more, you know. He would say things like, needs more più. More pew, and I would go, you need more pew? What? Well, the cast was like, oh my God, how do you, he thought it was the funniest thing. I was talking to her once, the director was a total maniac, and there was something going on stage that I thought, that can't be right. And I turned to Mrs. Fedosiv and I said, is that right? And she said, it's very nice. Has nothing to do with the opera, but it's very nice. So yeah, that was my experience in Russian. I've since done a couple other things, but yeah, that was my first experience. And for somebody like me that doesn't read Cyrillic, you got to go get help. So
yeah, I used to read Cyrillics well back, long time ago, decades ago, because that was part of the job at the time. Not that I could speak it, but I could at least read it and write it down for what I needed to get done. But you can, some countries over there only have the street signs in Cyrillic and in Latin letters, and it's okay. That helps. But anyway, we're getting toward.
Well, I'll tell you a quick one on that. My soprano in that opera was Swedish, and fantastic singer. But her Russian was like impeccable. And I said, "Do you speak Russian?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, how'd you learn this?" She said, "I just listened to a record." Okay.
We're getting toward the end of the show, and I want to make sure people know how to get your book, how to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us that?
Well, it's on Amazon right now. I'm going to move it to other platforms too, but right now it's on Amazon. If this is terrible, if you type in Joseph Evans, transitioning, it'll take you right to the book. You don't even have to know the UPI or whatever. Joseph Evans, transitioning. It'll take you right there. I'm not transitioning. I'm just who I am. But that tells you how a word in context can mean something else altogether. But anyhow, that's how you can find it. It's right there in the black cover and with my big old name on it. Okay.
Do you do any speaking engagements or anything like that?
Right. I have a couple of lectures coming up that basically are going to be book launchings at other schools. And, and usually when somebody like me, I'm a professor emeritus, they will ask you to work with students and things like that, which I'll be happy to do. But fundamentally, I'm going to go sell this thing. It's admittedly a limited audience anyway. I'm not trying to do a bestseller. This is for a specific group of people. It may number in a few thousand, but that's about it. Next book will be funnier. So it ought to go pretty well.
Joey, thank you so very much for being on the show today. I really and truly appreciate it. In fact, I actually look forward to our next time together. So I'm sure we'll be down the road.
Me too. Yep. Thank you so much.
So you take care, Senor. I really and truly appreciate your time today. This is Red O'Loughlin, and very shortly we're going to have a show coming up in about 21 minutes called The Wise Ones. And then an hour after that, I have another show called Talking Heads. And today my topic is staying healthy as we age. And in most cases, we don't know what we don't know. That seems to be part of our life. Through awareness, through education, through a lot of things, we gradually accumulate a little bit of knowledge. But sometimes that knowledge is misinformation. We don't know that it's wrong. We just don't know what we don't know. So today I'm going down the same path I've taken the last couple of weeks, where I'm starting to look at, we're transitioning into a new year. What can we do to improve ourselves? Well, today's more of an awareness aspect of it, a little bit of education in there too. But we're going to be looking at, as we age, what can we do incrementally? No major steps up, because the major step just doesn't last. You're really trying to establish a habit of something you can be doing every day. But literally, the things you do every single day are going to add up, accumulate, and at some point in time, 60, 70, 80, 90 years of age, that is you and your health and whatever else is going on. It's just all those things add up. And we have control over everyday aspects of our lives. So That being said, I really and truly appreciate you joining me today, and I look forward to catching you all next week. Take care, y'all. Red Laughlin. Bye.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.